Thank you for joining me for Cam Church. My name is Unicole Unicron, and it is my honor to have your attention. Today we are going to be talking about the physics of love. This is an interesting topic. I think it's one of the first things I started thinking about as a philosopher. I started thinking about the dimensional reality, emotional. I started thinking about emotions as dimensions. And then I came to love and I said, love is different, and this was back in 2009 or 2010. 2010. And I was like, love is different. Love is outside of the dimensional reality. It's all encompassing. And many times we say the spirit of uni, which is that which connects all dimensions, can also be called love. We experience the spirit of uni on this planet as the feeling of love. And I want to talk about, it's always easier for us to talk about the difference between the 3D and the 5D reality. So when we're talking about the physics of love, we have to understand how it's operating in both realities, because every dimension changes the reality of physics, right? You're going to have different rules that apply at each level. So when we're talking from the 3D perspective, that's the real world perspective. That's the way that society dictates. That's the way that we expect love to work. That's the way that we see it in movies and TV, and it's probably how we base our relationships off of. And then we've got the 5D love, which is more of an ascended master, Jesus type of love. And we're going to talk about both perspectives, how love operates, and then also how to integrate and harmonize both of those realities so that you can have a full life full of love. Everybody, I think, wants love. I used to follow a Tumblr account called Love Exists. And I remember feeling like that was such an interesting statement, love exists, because we live in such a dark reality sometimes that a lot of us feel cynical towards the idea of love, and we feel like love doesn't exist because all we've ever experienced is abuse or neglect or other people's insecurity projected onto us as love. In the 3D, we feel oftentimes that love is actually fear. And I mean that in the sense that the way that we come at relationships with monogamy, in the sense that you're trying to control your partner, or with insecurity in the sense that you want your partner to wear certain clothes, or you want your partner to do certain things, or the way that your partner is reflective of your self-worth. That's not actually love, that's actually fear. And if you've seen Donnie Darko, you know those two are in direct opposition with each other. So you can either be moving in the direction of the highest reality, which is 5D. That's not the highest, but that's towards 5D, into 5D, towards source, towards those good feelings. Or you can move towards the detrimental feelings that keep you in a spiral. It's all divine. There's nothing wrong with being in a negative state or following detrimental emotions, except that they hurt. So you have your own inner compass, you have your own inner guide to follow the good feelings towards what is actually beneficial for you. And what is actually beneficial for you is actually beneficial for the whole, because we are all one. So when you're listening to your inner compass and you're following your heart and you're moving towards true love instead of fear, you're benefiting not just yourself, but you're also benefiting the world. One of the fantasies that we have about love is of love as a limited resource. This is the idea that you can only have one partner. This is the idea that you can only love a certain number of people. This is the idea that you only have so much love to give. This is the idea that there's only so much love that exists for you in this world. And that is a fantasy built on a lack-based mindset. When we enter into 5D, which is the dolphin abundance timeline, which is the miracle timeline, which is the reality that abundance is limitless, that there is exponential love, money, comfort, etc. for you. And it's not something that you have to fight for. It's not something you have to fight other people for. It's not something you have to fight the world for. It's not a dog-eat-dog world. That's an absolute lie. It is an abundant world. And as you open yourself up to ease and abundance, you're opening yourself up to this dolphin abundance timeline. And love is one of these things that comes with these abundance portals, with these ego deaths of having to work hard for your resources. Because love is a resource that nourishes us. Love is an essential thing like food. And if you have trouble with these concepts of abundance, you can simply think of an apple. You can simply think of fruit and how one tree can feed hundreds of people and one single apple can plant several more trees. It's like that. There are limitless resources, there is limitless love in this universe for you to receive. If you were programmed as a child with neglect or trauma, then it's going to be really hard for you to feel that way. And so don't beat yourself up for not feeling the ease and comfort of the dolphin abundance timeline. It's a huge ego death that comes with integrating your trauma and doing all of the shadow work. So like I said, the 3D is a fantasy of fear, of thinking that you have to keep your partner close, you have to hold love tight, you have a limited access to love, you're not good enough for love, love comes to other people but it doesn't come to you. When people see your true self, they don't love you anymore. Whatever your belief set is around this lack-based thinking and love. Love isn't for me, whatever it is, that is a lack-based mindset, and it's a fantasy, and it's a fear-based fantasy. And it's also a fantasy of love being a limited resource. Again, it is unlimited. But when we view love as a limited resource, we're viewing it as this thing, this tangible thing almost, that we give and receive. And it's really a radical concept to break out of this way of thinking because it's so deeply entrenched in how we view our relationships and how we view the world. So if I have love in my heart and I want to share it with you and I say, I love you, you're someone who is deserving and is worthy of my love, and then I'm going to take my limited resource and I'm going to give it to you, and then you're going to take my love and you're going to receive it. And then hopefully you have love in your heart and you take it and you give it to me and I receive it, and then we're in this sort of like lack-based, tangible, physical reality of assuming that we have shared love. And then I say, I feel like I'm sharing more love than you, or you say, I feel like I'm sharing more love with you, or I feel this way, or I feel that way. And we get into these ego battles with each other. And sometimes we hit each other, and sometimes we yell at each other, and sometimes we leave each other, and sometimes we ignore each other, and sometimes we say mean things to each other. And how is that love? How is that love? It's not. So if you're holding on to love as something that someone owes you, or something that you owe someone, or something that feels like it's you deserve to get it from someone, that is never the answer in 5D. It is the answer in 3D. And like I said, we are operating from a different physics engine from every dimension. So in the third dimensional reality, we're talking about this infinite resource, but we're talking about it through the lens of duality and through the lens of limitation and lack. It's going to operate differently. And that's going to be how love operates. So that is the physics of love in the third dimensional reality, is that it's a limited resource. You have to fight to get it. You're never going to get enough. And it's everything that there is, and it's not even worth it because it doesn't nourish you, because it's never fully present. It's never fully there. You can chase it all your life. You can be desperate. You can be needy. And where does it get you? Only more desperation, only more neediness. And this is because the ego is insane. You can read the Course in Miracles if you want to learn more about how the ego is insane and you want to learn more about the ego. The ego is just a vehicle for operating in the third dimension. It's a vehicle. It's like a car. It's like your body. It's the persona that you put on in order for your true soul to operate through. The ego isn't bad. It's just that it's bad when it's in control. It's really bad at being in control because the ego is insane. The ego doesn't understand abundance timeline. The ego only understands lack because it was designed for a lack-based third dimensional reality. So the ego can be integrated and loved and used to create love, to sustain love, to experience love, but it can't be used wholeheartedly to supply love, because that's not where love comes from. If you're in the ego state and you want to know how to start entering into the 5D state, which we'll talk about in a second, you can use this phrase, which is a song lyric of mine, which is, love everyone better than they love you. It's a better phrase than turn the other cheek, because we definitely want you to have boundaries. You have to love yourself the most, and then you can love everybody better than they love you. If you've got someone showing up in your life and you're like, they really love me, love them more. If you've got someone showing up in your life and they're just causing chaos, love them more. It doesn't mean that you can't have boundaries. Oftentimes boundaries do come from a place of love, because you know that they're not going to be able to hold space in your life the way that is beneficial for either of you. And so boundaries can be love. I'm not saying don't have boundaries, but use that reality to give love more than other people. And the ego loves this. This is a great way for the ego, because the ego is competitive. The ego wants to win. And so when you say love everybody more than they love you, then you get to feel not only like you're a good person, but you're going to benefit from not falling into those ego traps of playing games, of trying to withhold love, of trying to remove love. You're just going to have clear boundaries. You're going to have clear love, and it's going to benefit you and the world. It's a great hack for the ego. A lot of us are in lack-based reality because we don't feel like we are seen or appreciated. And a lot of us enter into friendships or romantic relationships in an effort to be seen for who we really are, to be appreciated for who we really are, because our parents did not hold space for that. And that's really sad and unfortunate that we grew up in this toxic reality where our parents were traumatized by their parents, who were traumatized by their parents, etc. It's not anyone's fault specifically, but if you're someone who feels the need to connect because you don't feel seen, because you don't feel like a person without other people seeing you, it's a very BPD thing, then just acknowledge that that's something that you need and love that part of yourself. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, you have to understand that the love and attention that you're seeking in the third dimensional lack-based reality is never going to fully nourish you. What you can do is use the third dimensional physical reality to connect to fifth dimensional healing. You can use the third dimensional reality of a connection, a relationship, a friendship, in order to open up your own channels to heal and to call in higher love into your body. And that higher love is what's actually going to nourish you. So I'm going to add an image in here that I drew today for you. About the physics of love in the fifth dimensional reality. And it's a great picture. Let's make it an appropriate size. So the fifth dimensional reality is kind of like similar to the violet flame imagery. It's the idea that your heart is a portal. Your heart connects directly to the source, to source energy. Your heart is a sun. And so your heart connects to the sun, connects to the galactic center. And as you channel and pull energy through these portals, you're pulling them into yourself. And so the way that we do this is by believing in something higher. It doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be the spirit of uni. It doesn't have to be angels. It doesn't have to be aliens. It doesn't have to be a flying spaghetti monster. It can be any of those things. It can be all of those things. It can be your higher self. It's whatever you want to envision as a hopeful future, as a hopeful reality, as something greater than what you're currently capable of, as something greater than what Earth is currently capable of. The greater you can comprehend, the greater energy you can actually pull into your body, because, again, we are all one. So as you connect with something higher, focus, like you can write fan fiction about it. You can create your own version of it. It doesn't matter. You just have to conceive of something higher, and you become something higher. You hold the vibrational frequency of thought for that energy to enter your life, to enter your body, angelic guidance, whatever, okay, whatever, sparkling nematodes that grant wishes. It doesn't matter. Something higher, okay? Conceive of something higher. This is a technology. This is magic. This is ascension. You can think of it however you want to think of it, but it's real, it's powerful. Conceive of something higher and allow that energy to come into your life through your galactic center of your own chakra system, which is your heart, and connect that to the highest energy you can comprehend, the highest energy you can fathom. As you do that, you can check in and integrate and start channeling divine love. Divine love is inexhaustible. It is infinite, and it loves you in every moment for exactly who you are. It is not conditional love. Divine love is the energy of total purity, total acceptance for all of the things you think are evil, for all the things you think are good, for all the things you think are ugly, for all the things you think are beautiful about yourself. This divine love comes in and just appreciates that you are, that you exist, and that you exist in this way, in this moment. Because it's unique, it's a unique expression of the spirit of uni, it's a unique expression of the experience of God, and there's nothing more beautiful than that. As you learn to love yourself this way, as you learn to accept yourself in each moment and to eradicate those 3D voices of negativity and neglect and trauma and ancestral pain that your parents and society have put you through, you learn to connect with your truth. You learn to connect with your divine essence, and you learn to step outside of the duality of good versus evil, and you learn to just simply be a divine being of light. As you learn to love yourself in this way, and you channel that divine being of light energy into your heart and into your body, guess what? You can no longer see people as evil. You can no longer see people as bad. You start to see people exactly where they're at, and you start to love them. And you start to say, wow, I can see how this is a part of the divine unfolding. This is a child of God, just like me. This is a beautiful, perfect child of God, just like me. And because you're not judging and demonizing yourself, you start to open up your heart and see that people are just on a journey. People are in the middle of learning about who they are and what they want and what they're doing. Let's see. So this is the physics of love in the fifth dimension. Okay, you're calling it in to your heart. But what happens to your romantic relationships when you do this? What happens to your friendships when you do this? What happens to being able to operate in the world? If you do this too much, which I have, shout out to Satya, I feel like Satya is sitting in this space of really channeling this energy. And it's rare you find it. It's rare you see it, because in order to do that, you kind of have to sacrifice living a normal life, like whatever you perceive as normal. And as time goes on, more people will be tuning into this level of love, this level of awakening, this level of awareness. And once you're there, if there's other people there, it's going to be less lonely. But right now we're still in a very 3D reality. It's very entrenched in darkness. I have a few more things to say about the third dimensional version of love, and then I'm going to talk about how to connect them. So when you're in that third dimensional state of lack, one of the things you can do is make friends with your shadow, and one of the ways you can do that is by not being afraid of it. And so the way that we can do this is, it's kind of extreme. You want to make sure you're taking care of yourself as you do this work. You want to have a good, gentle guide, because some people have this idea of breaking people down to build them up again, and the way you do it, it has to be done very carefully. So it's good if you can work by yourself or with someone who's very, very gentle. But the idea is that you may never be properly loved. Can you accept that feeling? Can you accept that on this earth, you may never be seen by another person for who you really are? You may never feel that feeling you're craving. You may never have a person who makes you feel like you're home when they're holding you. And if you find that, maybe they leave. You may never find that feeling in the third dimensional reality. Can you make friends with that feeling? Can you stop being afraid of that feeling? Can you be okay with that feeling? And maybe that's more terrifying to some of us than it is to others. It's more terrifying to those who are not currently in partnership, probably, than to those who are. But I think that's the kind of idea where you hold that idea and it hurts very badly. And it feels like your heart is cracking open and you're dying. And if you can hold space for that feeling, it's a portal. And you stop being afraid of the feeling. And you're able to let go of that feeling, and you're able to actually enter into a state of radical acceptance. And as you do that, then you can start to tune into this reality that I've got on the screen here of the divine version of love, and realize this is not the only thing that exists. This world is an illusion, and I will be loved in the higher dimensions. Another thing about the third dimensional reality is that we often think, because of childhood trauma or because people treat us badly, that it is a reflection of our self-worth. This is very, very deep. I mean, this is very difficult type of thinking to get out of. But if someone doesn't text you back and you feel sad, that means you're attributing your self-worth to their attention. Oftentimes, majority of the time. So what do? You think it means your self-worth, but it's actually just the fact that we're on a planet of brutes. We're a bunch of monkeys bumping our heads. Like, everyone is so traumatized. These people around us, generally speaking, are not channels of divine love. The people that you're hurting over, I don't think, are doing this with their energy. Okay, they're brutes. They are banging around in the dark. They don't even know what real love is, and it's all fear. It's all trauma. It's all fear. It's not real love. So if you're feeling hurt by someone else, and you're feeling that your self-worth is predicated on their behavior, then you have to ask yourself, do you want to spend your life in longing, wishing that brutes weren't brutes? Or do you want to hold the space of divine love? And it's just a question you have to ask yourself again and again. Do I want to take responsibility for this other person and wish that they weren't as stupid as they are? Do I want to hold the space and just grieve the fact that they don't know divine love and withhold divine love for myself? Or do you want to just turn your attention inward, connect with your idea of something higher, and bust through? Zoom out to see the temporal nature of this reality and tune into your divinity. Takes practice, but meditation, keeping your spine straight, drinking good water, and being around people who are reaching for the same things you're reaching for can really help. In interpersonal relationships, okay, so how do we start channeling the third dimensional reality into 5D reality? I want to talk quickly just a little bit more about unrequited love and neediness, because they are a black hole that can never be filled by another human, and only divine love can fix this. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. I'm not saying isolate yourself from everyone and do it alone. Sometimes the journey calls for that. But you can create connections that are modeling 5-dimensional concepts to you so that you can then open up your channels and bring in the healing. It's like any good healer. We think of medicine and healing as you go to the doctor and the doctor fixes you. That's not how it works. We know with placebos, we know with self-healing, we know with natural healing, we know with plant healing, that we are creating channels for ourselves to heal ourselves. You're the only person who can heal yourself. And maybe you've been cut off from the wisdom of how to do that. But a doctor can hold that space for you to be able to heal yourself. A plant can hold that space for you to be able to heal yourself, etc., etc. So when we're talking about love, it's the exact same thing. Other people can, if they're good and if they're trying and if they're present and if they're accountable, hold that space of divine love. If they're reaching for the same thing you're reaching for, which is filling their own body with divine love and integrating their shadows, they can help model and mimic divinity to you. And this is really important because it's what allows us to expand, and it's what allows our world to shift and our world to change. So in interpersonal relationships, you're going to want someone who says, I see you for who you are. You're free to be who you are. I'm not going to let my insecurity stand in the way of your journey, but I am going to be here for you, and I am going to accept you, and I am going to love you for all those things that you are. Good or bad or dark or light, weird or strange, all those parts of you that other people, you're too scared to show other people. I'm going to love those parts. And the more you love yourself, the more you can hold that space for other people. Because you're not going to be judgmental, because you're not judging yourself. So, get a few people who are close to being ascended masters in your life as you also work towards it, because it really does help to have that mirrored reflection of the third dimensional reality. In community, it's the same thing. You are different. You have different views than the rest of us. You're neurodivergent. We have these words now to describe these things. You are a unique star child, and I love you, and I see you, and we accept you. And maybe you're difficult because you leave dishes in the sink, right? Or maybe you're difficult because you like to gossip. And we're going to come together as a community, and we're going to hold space for you for that thing, and we're going to talk to you and help you try to be accountable and set boundaries and be loving and hold that divine love for you, and also use it as a reality for us to check in. Are we just being triggered? Is this just something we need to work on to get more divine love into ourselves? It's a big balance. But you can use romantic healing, friendship healing, and community healing to enter into this state of divine love. We have to appreciate each other for exactly who we are. If I have a friend and they say, Unicole, what you're doing right now is absolutely insane. I don't agree with it. I don't know who you are anymore. This happens all the time to me. It's happening right now. It happens with my closest friends. This happens with my cult followers. People say to me, what are you doing? You're ruining everything. You're off the rocker. You're off the rails. You've lost your marbles. I don't feel as though I've lost my marbles. I feel as though I'm listening to my own inner compass. And when I know that I'm aligned and I know that I'm listening to my own inner compass and everyone around me is telling me, you're insane, that's when I know I'm doing my really good work. Because I'm not harming anyone. And I know that I'm challenging people to accept that I have a very different reality than them. The way that they see the world is so different from me that they would never in a million years do the things that I'm doing. They would never start a cult. They would never try to start a robot brothel. They would never do a pornography on tape. They would never be on camera. They would never become, this or this or this. That's what makes me me. That's what makes my reality so interesting, because I see and feel and experience reality from a completely different perspective than anyone else. And so I get to say to them, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't see through my eyes. And they have the choice then to either continue spiraling out or to check in and tune in with their higher wisdom and say, you know what, you're right. Your reality is reality. My reality is reality. You're different than me. It makes me uncomfortable. It triggers me. It makes me feel scared. But I trust you. I trust you to do what is right for you. When you do that, when you hold that space for someone, you are offering divine love to this planet, to this world, and to them. And what's really interesting is that as we hold space for each person to have their own reality, we are actually creating more connection. We are actually creating more middle ground, more connection, more commonality than we had before. It's kind of ironic, it's kind of hard to comprehend, but that is the result, is more closeness and more vulnerability. So when you accept people for being different from you, it actually makes you closer to them. It actually makes you unified with them. If you're in a state of total mastery and you're getting all your love from the trees and the plants and the air and the divine essence that you're creating, that you're nourishing yourself on because you're connected to something higher, what is the point of having romantic relationships or friendships? If you reach that point, does that mean you're just going to go glow and float around by yourself? Not necessarily. Again, you can use those relationships to help catapult you to that place and keep you there if they're good relationships. But additionally, you can use those relationships to play with your ego. Your ego doesn't have to disappear. It just has to dramatically die, in the sense that it cannot be in control. It can't be running the show. You can still play with it. You can still show up as your gender or as your name or as your body and play out different archetypal stories with other people. It's fun. That's what else is there to do here? Have fun. Try not to harm each other. It's rewarding, but it's not the end-all be-all. I recommend removing all labels from all of your relationships. Just showing up every day how you can with those people and being authentic as possible with them. It's harder than it sounds, especially when you've got kids. But shooting towards that is, I think, very beneficial. So that's all that I have for you today. Thank you for joining. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Make sure to go over to the UNICULT server and go to Uni Brunch. Hang out with your other cult members. The community needs to stay strong while I'm tapped out. So thank you for all the energy that you put into it and connecting with each other, because the whole point is not me. I am a channel here to explain something, explain a lot of things, and it's up to you all to use those things to connect with one another and to build the life you want to see. To create Unitopia in your own body, in your own mind, in your own spirit, in your own reality, and in your own community. And we are all working together to change the vibration of this planet. So thank you. Uni bless.